Kate. So I wanted to do a video on something that's pertinent to me right now, something that I'm addressing, I'm finding words for the first time, which is on witchy procrastination, which is a real thing, especially for me. I'm a self-proclaimed procrastinator. And, there have been way too many times when I've put off spells, when I've put off rituals, projects, specifically because I didn't want to use up, a special tool, item, ingredient, whatever, because I had designated it special, and I couldn't bring myself to commit to using it for one specific purpose, for fear that maybe that wasn't the best way to use it, the best purpose. And but what happens because of that is that the items I've designated as special, items that I have had various great ideas to integrate into my practice, just sit around collecting dust until I come across the right, perfect time to finally use them. Another example is when I find myself drawn to and inspired to do a certain kind of practice. And the initial idea in my mind includes a certain item. Then I end up waiting around for it until it finds its way into wherever I go, until I see it in a certain store, I see it at the thrift shop, really, things like that. By which time I've lost the precious creative energy, the zest, the passion that I first felt when I was inspired. Or perhaps I've forgotten about my idea altogether as time has passed. So I put it on the back burner. And that putting it on the back burner, that is something that dishonors my creativity, my divine inspiration and intuition, as well as my self-expression. Because that's what our practice does. That's really what our practice does. It integrates all of those things for us. It integrates our creativity, our inspiration, intuition, and expression of spirit, of heart, of ourselves. The very core of our beings, at least of our spiritual or creative beings. And in addressing the feeling of wanting to wait for the right time or the right thing to use different tools or items or ingredients or what the fuck ever, we just need to do the witchy thing, just as we feel it, as it feels right. So the pattern of witchy procrastination is something I've noticed in myself, which I realize is not serving me. It's a pattern of procrastination that is rooted in fear. And that, for me, only leads to stagnancy. That is not a place I choose to be in anymore. So I choose to move from that stagnant procrastination into intentional intuition. What I mean by that, intentional intuition, in terms of my practice, is shifting my practice into a spontaneous act of creation. I tend to overthink things, overanalyze, and plan a lot of things out. And by all means, my planning has absolutely benefited and complemented and contributed to my practice. But in complete honesty with myself, I've allowed planning and over-planning to restrict and hinder my magical workings and my growth as a practitioner. Magic is a sacred act of inspiration and then of creation. So I've been challenging myself to move away from the strictly intellectual side of things, if you will, for the time being in regards to my spirituality. The reason for that being that I've read so much, researched so much, heard so much from people, just learned so much shit, and good shit, don't get me wrong. I realized it came to a point where pretty much all the information that I was intaking from a certain point recently, it felt like information I had heard before. Things I had already learned and absorbed multiple times over. So, and although I do practice, I'm not practicing as much as I'm taking in. More intake than output. And of course, there is immense value to studying and collecting information that is relevant to you, to what you want to learn about, to what you want to practice, definitely. But for me, none of that matters if I'm not using what I learn in reality. It's not enough to learn about it hearing from someone else's experience and knowledge with it. Although that is often really a source of inspiration to me. It sparks the curiosity that generates my energy to actually do it and try it out for myself. So there's definitely value to that, don't get me wrong. But I need to experience it for myself. I need to play with it, to experiment with it. Otherwise, how will I grow? I cannot grow by knowledge alone. So, again, I'm feeling really strongly to move from the side of planning things out to really moving the act of my witchcraft into a space of spontaneity, which is fun. So that invokes the possibility and the element of my inner child, as well as engaging the energy of my own intuition, which in turn brings the sacred feminine aspect into place as well. Which makes sense because I have been contemplating a lot on and starting to really do some work with the High Priestess and her energy. And I definitely feel like this entire reflection is due to the mindfulness I've had with her recently. And where there is mindfulness, there is space made. And in turn, she has blessed that space in me with some insightful realizations and a sense of freedom for what can be in my practice, whatever I choose to make of it. Because that's what our practice is. It is whatever we choose to make of it. And I choose to be intentionally intuitive And if this resonates with you, I invite you to do the same.